Hi, I'm Tamika Key with BTV and the New York Stock Exchange, coming in live from Beet Retreat in the Berkshires. And I'm so excited to have Ritu Trivedi from WPP Media.
Yes.
Ritu, we just have to get into this. Everybody's talking about Agentic AI. Where do you see AI changing how agencies plan, buy, and optimize media over the next, let's say, 2 years?
I think AI is going to enhance, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but enhance what we do. It's going to help automate the things that none of us ever want to do, whether that is from a billing perspective, execution perspective. I think a lot of those things that slowed us down in terms of execution are going to become more automated using AI at the core. But I do think planning becomes smarter and more intelligent. I think there's an opportunity to bring in interesting data. There is an opportunity to bring in things that we didn't necessarily have at our fingertips before, use them in a more interesting way to understand the customer journey, to understand the different audiences for our clients, understand why that can matter to their business and to their growth. So I think that agentic and AI is going to play different roles throughout the process, whether it's planning as well as execution.
You know, you talked about a bunch of different data. You also talked about the evolution of the customer journey and new tools. Agencies have so many new tools. From a data perspective, you've got retail, you've got commerce signals, and of course CTV. So what new capabilities do you think agencies need to kind of connect all of these touch points on this customer journey?
I think it's less about new capabilities. I think it is about the silos we've built across all the things that you're talking about, specialty teams, not just on our side, but even sometimes on the client side, right? Different groups touch these different things that you mentioned. I think it's about breaking down the silos. So it's not net new capabilities, it's how all of this works together and works at the speed of the way these things are happening in the marketplace, right? On Amazon, I can see a format which might be sitting on CTV, but it's a clickable opportunity for me to put something in my cart, right? That to me is taking all of the things that you just talked about and it's bringing it all together. So how do those different teams work together to bring these opportunities to bear? I think that's where we need to do some more work.
Maybe drilling down into that a little bit more, because first party data is also one of those things that feed into that. What separates organizations from just collecting first-party data to actually activating it?
So I think there are a lot of clients, there's a good set of clients that have first-party data and not necessarily using it from a marketing perspective. There are some clients that don't even have first-party data based on the business and the category they're in, like CPG, right? So I think the ones that are collecting it, but not necessarily using it, they need to start thinking about how do we start marketing using that first party data? I have a lot of different clients who have some very, very healthy e-com data, they have app data, and they're not necessarily thinking about how to think it from a marketing perspective. Now, from a marketing perspective, it doesn't have to be all about just activation. It could also be about intelligence, right? Learn a little bit more about who your lapsed users are. Learn a little bit more about who your growth segments are. Let's learn about if you did a sponsorship during soccer, did that really bring more soccer fans to you? Did the basket of the soccer consumer go up? Like, there are some very interesting use cases that we could be using that first party data for our clients for. So I think there are people again, collecting, but not necessarily thinking about how to use it from both a intelligence perspective as well as activation. And then from a publisher perspective, I think this is why the acquisition WPP made in InfoSum a couple of years ago is to be able to collaborate with all of these publishers that are sitting on some very rich data. Only they know what the consumer journeys are within their platforms, right? And we can get really smart about bringing all of that data together to WPP Open and fueling the intelligence of what our clients' data and clients' customer is alongside all of this intelligence. So I think, again, from a publisher perspective, if they're only collecting it but not letting us use it, and not letting us work with them to understand the intelligence they're sitting on, what's the point? Because then it becomes very much an activation within their walled gardens, but it's not information that I can get smarter about and do more of those things. So I think the more we can, again, in a privacy safe way, in a collaborative way, think about how do we work with technology like InfoSum to bring both our client side data as well as the publisher side data to garner more intelligence and also to activate. I think that's going to be sort of the future.
That's fascinating because I do think so many of the conversations just stay at that activation right. level, and you're like, let's do more with this.
Exactly.
Along those lines, I think our industry has spent years taking data and optimizing for the lowest common denominator, just impressions and clicks. Right. So are we finally entering an era where the true currency of advertising is business outcomes and not media metrics?
Business outcomes has always been part of it. Our clients do MMMs and we do look at return on investment. But it's been spotty. Not every client does that. Not every client does it with a frequency that we should probably do it with. But it's also one single tool within a toolkit. Right? So to your point, like business outcomes is also POS data. It's also MMM data. It's also your brand equity data. It's all the things that the clients are measuring, but it's sitting in silos and the campaign data that we sit on. But we are not bringing all of these things together to, again, understand what's working well for them, what is informing what. Are there sponsorships and partnerships that they're doing that actually are good for long-term value versus short-term metrics? So I think it's more about, again, ring-fencing all of this data in a meaningful way and organizing it so that we can build intelligence out of it and get better about when our clients ask us the question, where should my next dollar go? We should be able to answer that very confidently based on what we are seeing.
Ritu, there's so much change that you are talking about, and this is changing the way agencies have to work together internally, the way they have to work with clients, 100%. What we do with data. This definitely is a transformational time. But if we look back 5 years from now, what do you think will be remembered as the biggest turning point in advertising?
I think personally for me, I feel like COVID was a big turning point because if you remember, there was a lot of charts back then talking about how streaming became, really came into what streaming is today, right? For the first time, we started seeing, okay, linear TV, we're beginning to see the role it will play, and we're beginning to see the streaming and how that is going to continue to grow. And then once that genie is out of the bottle, we haven't been able to put that back. I also think the consumer sentiment has changed during that time and coming out of that time, right? How people value brands, the whole creator economy that we talk about today. If you think back 5 years, these were still in their infancy stages. But maybe because we were stuck at home, we were paying more attention to and building relationships with these humans called the creators, or whether we were watching a lot of content on our streaming on demand, like those are things that we're actually seeing bear fruit now. So I feel like COVID was a little bit of a turning point for us. I think also coming out of COVID on the other side, experiential has really taken off, right? Because we want to be seeing people, we want to travel, we want to experience more things. Sports has become a real thing. If you think about it 5 years ago, yes, sports has always been something people care about, but the way they care about it now, what a global phenomena it's become. I feel like, again, that was a tipping point. So I go back to, I think because the world changed with COVID, the world of media changed because of COVID.
And thus the world of advertising and everything we do. Exactly. Thank you so much, Ritu. This is fascinating.
Great. Thank you.